really appreciate the very introspective and honest answers. And I really can't wait for people to see this.
I mean, I'm having so much fun. I'm like, I like it.
I'm sorry, but we're out of time right now. You guys, you're way over your time. So we have to wrap this up, but thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it. And I hope you guys have a great day today.
Hi, my name is Greg Alba.
And I'm John Humphrey.
And we're with the Real Rejects. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. We thought from the trailers that this was going to be a good show. We were both surprised by just how...
and you watched it?
It's fucking awesome. It's awesome.
Good.
It's like,
Awesome.
We're the only opinion you need to hear.
Forget everyone else.
I had a feeling.
I appreciate that. We were so surprised by like how real and authentic everything felt for something that is, it's Star Wars.
Yeah.
And the sentiment we kept echoing while we were watching it was every time a character is introduced, including yours, especially yours, you can always feel the history of the character right away. So I'm really curious, what was the process in developing the backstory and the history approaching this role? Did you mainly work with Tony Gilroy? Did you do any work with Diego Luna directly? Or was this all just you creating memories on your own and then bringing it to the camera to play with?
I think there's different elements of it. Truthfully, I think talking to Tony was, I think, number one. Also, I spoke to Diego multiple times and we sort of started to create little scenarios. And then the set had something that is kind of unexplainable. And I'll tell you why. It was a city. It was a real city. It was 7 blocks. It was huge. And I was able to explore my character's day-to-day life, right? I was able to explore sort of where she would go to. Oh, that's where Cassian would sort of jump up and come down or whatever. And oh, this is what happened here, or this is what would happen here. And
that's so cool. You could build memories with the actual environment.
You could build memories and be like, oh, this is where she goes have a drink after work, and then I would walk in and I would open drawers and everything that you wanted to be in that drawer was in that drawer. I was like, how are they so specific? It was filmable 360 and it gave this freedom. I spent more time in Ferrix than I did in my own home in London. So there's something about being a Ferrixian. There's something from being from Ferrix. There's a camaraderie. There's an even exchange that happens. Even just being there, it does something to you. It really does. So that sort of helped a lot. And then you have a great script in front of you that is really easy to play with. You have Diego, who's so moldable on screen, and it was just fun. We had space to have fun and leave things a little open and close certain ones. I had a blast.
Yeah, I mean, you get the impression that like you get to do some real acting and actual scene work and play around on a Star Wars show, which is like something you don't often get to really say that often. So yeah, it was actually really refreshing. It was really refreshing. John, please. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and stepping into a world then that has so much lore and such a fan expectation, and you're taking on the role of sort of this, the badass brooding female lead, which has become kind of tropified. And yet, seeing this role of yours and several of your other roles, it seems like you're good at embodying these characters without ever feeling like that's the note you're going for. So, I mean, where is all that? Is that in your mind at all when you're approaching something like this? Both the outside perspective of fans and then just the perspective of like character tropes. Like, where is all that in your process?
Yes. I have an issue with toughness. I don't consider Bix to be tough. I really consider her to be strong. And with strongness and with strength, listen to me. With strength, there's so many different complexities that come into that, right? There's a vulnerability that really comes into play in order to be really strong. There's a vulnerable aspect to the character that has to be alive in order for her to be brave, right?
Yes.
It feels like a bigger challenge because it is like this, I'm this woman, but in order for her to be brave, she needs to be able to put people in front of herself. And that you need to start sort of showing even from the beginning. And what I like about Bix is that she's always shifting. As the world is shifting around her, she's kind of shifting, right? You see her at the beginning and she's so in charge of her environment and so in charge of, this is my cell yard. I run this show. I'm the boss. And as soon as she makes a decision of helping Cassian and things start getting out of her hands and she starts shifting, and kind of molding to what is around her. And by the end of episode 3, you almost mourn the Bix that you met in episode 1. It's a very different version of what then will become. And, I think that heroines or heroes or super strong characters or female characters in a story like this or in Star Wars, I think there's so much more. And especially in this story, it's such about humans, it's about the story. It's about a revolution. It's about being at a cusp of a revolution. And no matter how strong you are, there's a lot of stuff going on outside, and her moral compass is sort of being questioned and shifted in every direction. Do I become part? Do I not? Do I stand? Do I fight? Do I sit back? Where do I stand? Where's my place? And I think that's kind of where Bix is at. And that's where my process sort of began, and trying to make her as human as I possibly could. She has no powers.
What I wanted to ask was, while we were watching it, the main thing that kept coming to my mind was you could always feel the history of these characters instantly. It was like an immediate impression. So I'm curious, with you being a new character into this world, what was the process for creating the history for, because I don't want to give any spoilers away for the audience, but what was the process for creating the history for this character stepping into this? Did you work with Tony Gilroy a lot? Did you have to do a lot of Star Wars lore exploration? Like what was the actor process on this?
It was pretty straightforward, actually. A lot of it came from what Tony had written on the page. And then Tony actually gave at least me a lot of freedom to investigate the history of Syril. And I remember asking him right at the very beginning of chats about the character and the project. I was like, okay, like 5 years, where does Syril end up, man? Because I'm trying to plot him out.
Oh, cool.
At the beginning, and Tony was like, well, he could go here. He could go here. Haven't written it yet, so I don't know. And I was like, oh, okay. And then it hit me later on that he was really doing me a favor. He was allowing me to exist within the I don't know of Syril, who is really
awesome.
Unformed. He's kind of like pre-adolescent when you meet him. He's in flux, trying to figure out who he is, what he stands for, whether the risks that he wants to take are worthwhile. So I then, chatted to him about what maybe his upbringing was like, which became incredibly useful because you wind up meeting his mother. And Star Wars actually goes incredibly domestic, and you get this view and portrait of what created a person like this. You see that he comes from a place of lack and a place of real control and restriction. And he's applied that into his everyday life, but he's got no sense of self, really. And he's searching for that validation and approval in the exterior world, right? So in his job, but then also from the Empire. And he sees that the Empire is this very easily navigated system where if you do what they tell you to and you do a good job and you take power and control away from other people, then you'll ascend the ranks. And it's much easier and more straightforward than being a rebel.
That's true.
Trying to dig up some metal on Ferrix or something. So he's certainly lacking in certain emotional capabilities at the same time. But a lot of that, was the conversation between me and Tony.
In no hyperbolic way, I believe you and the rest of the ensemble really succeeded. Like the other sentiment we kept echoing was, it feels very human and everything feels very gray, and like there's a gray quality to it. It doesn't feel one-dimensional at all.
It feels like characters unfolding amid circumstances rather than the plot needs to go here. It feels very alive.
It was interesting to me that I got like a sneak peek behind someone that works for the Empire. I've always sort of judged them, even as a fan, being like, this is what this person is. I have done that to a character. I've stamped that character as something, and especially with Kyle's character, that you get to see him come home.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, this is what wait, all of this starts shifting. And then you start looking at it in a different way. You're like, you're a cop really trying to just do your job. And Tony did a really great job of portraying that there is no good or bad. We all are living in this really gray, murky. And I think every character in discovery and unfolding themselves as this revolution is unfolding.
I really appreciate the very introspective and honest answers. I would love to ask more questions. They're telling us to wrap now, but I mean, what I got to say is, like, within the first few minutes of meeting your character, I mean this in no hyperbolic way, actually feel all that history right away. So seriously, congratulations on this. And like you were absolute standout. So it's an honor to speak with you for a period of time.
And as a character that's kind of presented at the outset as an antagonist, just really quick, like seldom have I latched onto and sort of identified so much with a character in that position and found them so endearing despite the barriers. So you're really killing it.
Yeah. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I mean, I'm having so much fun. I'm like, I like it.
I'm sorry, but we're out of time right now. You guys, you're way over your time. So we have to wrap this up, but thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it. And I hope you guys have a great day today. Thank you very much.